So the difference between maths and economics is this. The context changes around economics, and it leaves beliefs that we had completely useless and valueless. This does not happen with maths. And so when you have economics that's reliant on mathematical modelling and then seeks to kind of edit the world to accommodate the shortfalls in those models, and that's at the basis of policy, which is what we've had, what eventually starts happening is policy starts attacking everything to hide from the shortfalls in economic models, which is, you know, the fact that economics hasn't moved substantially. Well, it has a bit, it's a bit more heterodox, but, you know, not much since the financial crisis. Is about inertia in these disciplines, in recognising that the context has changed. Now, market forces is just a word that's used to describe an aggregation of the entirety of our behaviour. And you can't argue with market forces, because it's like standing on the tide, on the beach, and telling the tide not to come in. The tide is going to come in. And all that's really happened at the minute is very, very simple, and that's that the context has changed around the belief system that we put in place in the late 70s, and we need to adapt. And it should be really, really simple. And we should have systems ready for this point. We actually should have people who are ready and waiting for this point. We should have them at the London School of Economics, we should have them at Oxford University, we should have them at Whitehall. Each political party should have people who know that this happens. But instead, the belief system that we've had for like the last 30 years has rather depended on people selling bullshit and then defending it. And we've got an entire policy-making culture who not only are not ready for this situation and not assessing what's the context that's changed around the models that we're using, and not looking at crisis to find out how systems work, and not learning from crisis, and are not using that process to develop, you know, and adapt, which is supposed to be what market fundamentalists do by the fucking way. And basically, this whole crisis from 2000, since fucking Lehman Brothers went down, has been because instead of having those systems that we should have, instead of having think tanks that know that now is the time to be starting to prepare to learn from crisis and to be developing the next belief system and adapting to change context, they've just gone into denial. And the longer these people are in denial, the more danger we are all in. So for the benefit of the next cycle, we actually have responsibilities that cannot be abdicated, that will always provide a constant thread. And these duties that I'm discussing are about stability. And the reason they're about stability is that they are stabilising functions. The rule of law is a stabilising function. The care economy is a stabilising function. These are the things that keep us stable and allow new growth. People, families, society, we stay stable. And at this point, we should absolutely know which responsibilities cannot be abdicated and where we should be looking to start learning. And we're not. And that to me is mind-blowing. And I've had to reflect a lot on why it is that I know that and policymakers don't. And I couldn't figure it out. It's taken me like a really long time to figure out how. I knew some of it was because I come from that looked after system, so I have an interest in understanding those systems, and particularly systems where responsibilities can't be abdicated, and it's about care labour. But I realised the key difference between me and economists is that until 7 years ago, I had never read an economics book written after 1960. Well, not really, apart from because my reading, I'd never read modern economics, modern economists. I started reading Keynes and Hayek to understand the institutions that were born and these institutions that had grown. And I realised that I had been looking at these two economists and thinking that they were largely in agreement, which they were. And I had never kind of considered the impact of the tribalism that stemmed from these men, although I should have done. And I had never considered what had happened to the things that they had tried to say. And I realised that the reason that I know that we're supposed to have systems at the point in time where the context has changed around the belief system that we're using to learn from crisis, and that these systems will always give a constant thread of responsibilities that can't be abdicated, and so it will be a guide to where crises are. I only know that because I know these institutions, and I never bothered reading an economics book written after fucking 1950s, 1960s, until quite recently. It's worth reading Hyman Minsky's revisiting of Keynes, his autobiography, and he'll describe how that process happened. It's quite important to understand. I'll put the link underneath the video.